Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So Kevin is not here this evening, and we have Steve Weber, I guess, is our selectman rep for tonight.
I am.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I will do a roll call of members present. Michael Proto, Chair.
Kimberly Queen and Vice Chair.
Josh Smith, member.
Ron Stevens, member.
James Buffetti, member.
Okay,
Stephen Weber, Selectman's rep.
great. Oh, yeah, that's right. Kate is actually joining us remotely, and Jay is joining us remotely this evening. So, okay. All right. First order of business is. Oh,
Kate
okay.
Stevens, member. Sorry, I couldn't get on.
That's okay. Delayed response, but that's okay. Welcome. Okay. First order of business tonight, public input on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the public who have anything to add for non-agenda items not on the agenda for this evening?
Mr. Chair, there is no members of the public on WebEx.
Thank you, John. Okay, so hearing none, I'll close public input on non-agenda items. We'll go to the first order of business. Compliance hearing for Mel's Funway, map 20, lot 17, 454 Charles Bancroft Highway. Is the applicant present?
We are indeed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the applicant would like to introduce themselves.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you know our faces well. Andy Perlman, attorney with Prunier and Perlman for your applicant Mel's Funway Park and KBT Realty Trust. With me tonight are my usual suspects, Wayne Caulfield and Michael Accomando, owners of Mel's Funway Park. And Mr. Chairman, you'll be happy to know that I don't have a lot to say tonight because we had a very good walk yesterday with Joan McKibben and Peter Dion. And I trust all you folks have Peter's memo that he provided.
Yes, everyone should have got a copy of it in their email. I have it right here.
And Mr. Chairman, we have nothing further to add to that. We, Mike and Wayne and their team have been busting their you-know-whats to get the job done. They got the job done. Walking the park yesterday, Mike and Wayne were explaining how the Halloween season is going to go, how they're going to spread out, abiding by the emergency orders that they have to adhere to at 50%. Okay. Right, and how they're going to spread everybody out. So. And that was Spooky World talk, but as to the site plan compliance, Joan and Pete didn't see anything that wasn't in compliance. So you have his memo and really speaks for itself.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Looks like everything that was has been addressed. So I guess the bumper boat pool is completed. So will you be getting a certificate of occupancy at some point, or is that?
There's one final piece of the puzzle before that happens, and Keach Nordstrom, the project engineers, have to provide an as-built to the sidewalk, and then once that's filed, then yes, we will be requesting a CO.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Jay, I know. Good evening. You're on the on remote. Do you have anything you'd like to add, or?
I do concur with what I read in the memo, but I think perhaps if you're willing for the record and for the viewing audience, it might be worthwhile to read the memo into the record.
Certainly, I could do that. All right. So this is titled Mel's Funway Park Compliance Inspection Letter. Mel's Funway Park, 454 Charles Bancroft Highway, Litchfield, New Hampshire, 03052. On Monday, August 31st, 2020, myself and Joan McKibben went to Mel's Funway Park for the purpose of inspecting the park for site plan compliance. Present at this meeting were Mike and Wayne, the owners of Mel's, their attorney, Andy Perlman, and other Mel's employees. After a site walk and review, we determined that all the work involved on the approved site plan to include the following are completed. 1, the siding of Pavilion 1 is barn board style and stained and 100% completed. 2, the siding of Pavilion 2 is barn board style and stained, but not 100% complete, but is being allowed to remain open sided this year temporarily to allow better use with regards to COVID-19 and is to be completed next year. 3, the bumper boat pool is completed along with its support building for pumps and storage and have been inspected and approved by the building inspector. 4, the fencing around the bumper boat attraction is completed in black metal type fencing. 5, the sidewalk along Charles Bancroft Highway to Colby Road is completed and paved, and edges have been loamed and seeded. 6, the wooden fencing along Charles Bancroft Highway near the corporate event area is completed. 7, the gravel walkway along the Mel's parking from the corporate event area to the Laserplex area has been completed. 8, the fencing around Mini Mel's attraction is completed with black chain link type fencing. 9, the electrical associated with Mini Mel's is completed and inspected by the building inspector. 10, the carnage haunt has been removed completely as directed. 11, all the associated landscaping is completed, trees are planted, grass is established or has been hydroseeded, and plantings are completed. 12, paving around the bumper boat attraction area is completed as directed on the site plan. 13, gravel walkway has been installed to the bumper boat ticket booths. 14, concrete walkway was installed in front of the bumper boat laser building. 15, parking areas were restriped near the bumper boat laser building. And finally, 16, the additional parking area behind the Mel's Arcade building has been completed. Peter Dion, Building Inspector, Town of Litchfield, New Hampshire, signed on August 31st, 2020. Okay. I guess that is all we have. So sounds like everything is in compliance and everything looks great and looks good.
Great. Well, thank you.
All right.
Stay safe, everyone. Buy your Spooky World tickets.
We shall.
All right.
We shall indeed.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Be
See ya.
well.
Thank you very much.
You guys.
You do as well. Take care. Second order of business this evening, conservation open space design. Jay, I'll let you take this one.
So I am going to hopefully share my screen. Bear with me one moment while I attempt to do that. Can people see the screen?
Nope, not yet.
Not sharing yet.
Not sharing yet. All right, let's try again. Share content. Let me just move on down. Does that work?
Yep, we got it.
All right, and it is on the site if anybody wants to follow along, not following along on the screen. So it's been a while since we looked at this. So just as a brief overview, the proposed changes were an attempt to address some of the confusion around open space, what's allowed, how should, what the tenure should be. In other words, how should it be owned and managed and controlled? And a lot of that confusion was, I think, related to the terminology in the ordinance, in that different terms were used to refer to open space. And Sometimes terms are interchangeable and or used in different ways. Sometimes new terms kind of popped up, and so it did make it somewhat confusing. And there were also some contradictions in that, in particular, the use of the term designated land, which suggested or actually was required to be open to the public, even though there were other places in the ordinance where it would seem that that would be conflicting. So the last time that we looked at this, I kind of went through the ordinance and felt there were really three predominant types of open space that were contemplated. What we call, land that would be dedicated to the public or would be publicly accessible, land that would be held in common by the homeowners in any particular development, and then I guess I would call more broadly other open space. And in particular, I think the challenge was around, of course, we saw with the more recent application, how do we treat something like agricultural land, where we, I think it's clearly a goal in the ordinance that agriculture is one of the things that we imagine open space would be set aside for. Yet that doesn't really typically work when it comes to land that is publicly accessible. So the last time that we looked at this, what I attempted to do was keep designated space essentially the way it was as public land or publicly accessible land, and keep common space, common open space the same way as it was, and then create a new category to try to capture everything else. That led to some confusion because the term that I used then was conservation land. That's what I called that category. And so that was clearly a confusing term. So I went back to really think about what's a different term that I could use, and really kind of came to the conclusion that it's better to abandon that at all and come up with a simpler intervention than creating a third category. So I hope I have not hopelessly confused everybody, but I thought what I would do is just kind of walk you through the interventions and the changes that I think make sense to clear up the confusion, hopefully not make it worse. So again, as I mentioned before, we have many different terms that have been used. Just very quickly here, one of the things we want to do in the ordinance as a goal is to create greenways by linking open space in different developments. I only, again, here struck the word common open space because, again, common open space is a term of art in the ordinance. So we're looking to link open space, whatever its form. I'm scrolling way down. We are still in definitions. As I mentioned previously, I had inserted a new category here called conservation land. As you can see, that's gone. Designated open space, I've simply kept the definition the way it is, because actually there's nothing wrong with this definition. I think the definition of designated open space as we have it now does capture, I think, what we wanted to do. It's very broad. It doesn't say it has to be owned in any particular way or accessible in any particular way. So I just left that alone. So this is just the insertion of a comma for open space common. But again, you can see this is another category of land, open space that we contemplate. This is common land. And in this case, this really is land intended for the use and enjoyment of the residents of the development and would be owned by them. So made no changes to that either. Make no changes here, make no changes here. Backing up a little bit in terms of process. Again, that's just a section that addresses people who are seeking an exception from the process. Kind of moving on down, the review process, once again, made no changes here. I think the review process is really a pretty good one. The key is just, making sure we follow it. But overall, it really encourages the applicant to come in, you work with them on deciding what are the best areas. As you can see here, step one, identify the conservation areas. Step two, locate the house sites, the building envelopes. Here, I only, again, just inserted the word here. I think the intent is, in this section, where we say identify areas for proposed trails where access to the designated open space is appropriate, et cetera. I think the intent here is public access, so I just put that in as a clarification. So again, no changes there at all. So here we've got, starting to see some more significant changes. First of all, under this section, uses, I'm missing a word, should say open space. Designated open space within, a COSID or open space development shall be used for only conservation, passive recreation. Here, I added the terms forestry and agriculture. I only did that because we say that before. I just thought it would be consistent to repeat it again, so it doesn't seem like it's something different. Again, I'm missing a word here. I should say designated open space. I struck the references to common area, conservation land, open space, or public land. The intent here is that it's all designated open space. Again, no changes to density, no changes proposed for dimensional requirements. Moving on down. Again, so here is the section in the existing ordinance where we say open space requirements. For clarity, I add the word designated because that's what we're talking about in this section. And then again, the word designated here, to be clear, this is what we're talking about. So really no changes here. The process remains the same. The use of designated open space is subject to planning board approval in consultation with the Conservation Commission. The ordinance is a little bit repetitive, but I didn't really want to worry about that. But basically, kind of again, we're reciting the uses that you can put the designated open space to. Moving on down, but there's no changes to that. Again, I'm inserting the word designated just so that we're clear. As we talked about before, it says portions of designated open space may be permitted by special permit to be used for the following. I struck the word by special permit because we have no special permit process associated with this. Planning board approval is required for any of these uses, so I think the reference to another permit process really isn't necessary. But here, basically, the concept here is that in general, designated open space should be used for forest management, agriculture, or passive recreation. The board can permit designated open space to be used for active outdoor recreational uses such as playgrounds and fields, parking areas as well to access open space. Going on down, these are the uses. Again, we're talking about uses that are allowed. No changes proposed there. And here is a key change though. Again, designated open space up until this point in the ordinance is really broad. It can be, it can be used in a variety of ways. Again, as noted above, it can be used for agriculture, it can be used for forestry, it can be many different things. Here is where the ordinance as it exists first says that designated open space has to be publicly accessible. So I struck that. Adequate public access to designated open space may be required rather than a shall at locations approved by the planning board. So that leaves it to really the discretion of the planning board in conjunction with working with the applicant to provide public access where it makes sense. And then moving on down to this next section, this is control and management. It says the existing language is common and open space land. Again, I want to be clear. We're talking here about both common land and designated open space. So I just say it. Here's where we have a new term pop up called green space. I struck it. It's confusing to have another term referring to open space. So basically, there's not a substantive change here, really. It's just that we're clarifying, what is, again, that we mean designated open space, and we don't mean this. Once again, here is a reference to designated open space shall be open to the public. I struck that. Simply shall be permanently protected, etc. That's simply the way it is now. And then again, I inserted the word designated here, just to be clear. So here is where we have another change, and certainly we might want to have some conversation around that. So the way this is set up now is designated open space can be conveyed or an easement granted to the town or its designee, say the Conservation Commission. It can be granted to a nonprofit corporation whose principal purpose is the management or stewardship of open space, or a corporation or trust jointly owned in common by the owners of the subdivision. This is really referring to common land. So I stuck in a fourth, and the reason I stuck in the fourth is none of these seem to fit, or I should say, don't necessarily fit or fit well with using designated open space for agricultural purposes. So I stuck in this third, or I should say this fourth, a corporation, trust, or other private entity engaged in the practice of agriculture, forestry. I added outdoor recreation, or any of the other uses designated open space as approved by the planning board. So this is broad. It means that, obviously, it means what it says. It could be a corporation, trust, or any other private party. I stuck in the word and engaged in the practice of agriculture, forestry, or outdoor recreation, because if we are going to, or if the board is going to agree that designated open space is going to be conveyed either in fee or easement to a party other than the town or a nonprofit or the homeowners, we ought to have some assurance that who it's being conveyed to is in fact dedicated to using it for a use that is contemplated by the board and the ordinance. So that's why I stuck that in there. I will say I really thought about this term here or other private party. I went back and forth as to whether it makes sense to convey the designated open space, either an interest in or in fee, to a private individual rather than an entity. So I've kind of gone back and forth on that, but I did leave it in here, and certainly, we can discuss it. That's essentially the essence of the changes. Really, the interventions I think are pretty minor. Doesn't mean they don't have substance, but they're pretty minor in terms of the changes to the wording of the ordinance itself. And I hope I didn't make it more confusing than in some ways it already is. And open to questions, comments, thoughts.
Does anybody have any questions for Jay?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go.
I think where I was confused on the, this is Kim, by the way. The deed, we kept talking about, I never say that word right, perpetuity?
Perpetuity?
Perpetuity. Does that always apply, or was it just in the case that was in front of us?
Well, I think that what this ordinance contemplates is that the land would be permanently dedicated to open space. So yes, in perpetuity.
Okay, do we want to add that in here, that word, or is that too, I don't see it in here. I see you mentioned deed 6 times and restrictive, and that's good. But I would not have known.
Somehow I thought it was in here, but we can certainly add the.
Maybe I didn't look for that word. I looked for deed. I didn't look for
Section-
perpetuity. I never get
Section
that
3,
word
it's in
right.
section 3.
Is it in section 3? Let me look at the word. I was looking under
Go back
deed
all the way out.
because we had a thing with, we listed it on the as notes on the drawing, but we also wanted it on the deed, right? We
Right,
needed
so
that.
in B, we say designated open space shall be permanently protected by conservation easement.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't know, I wouldn't know if that, should we put it in there for safety, or would our legal review always know that's permanent?
We could certainly make that clear.
Yeah, I mean, for clarification.
It would help me not being a lawyer that if I could take some verbal lessons on saying the word. But because I think that was a lot of my confusion, that it would be permanently, untouched. Right. I was afraid it was going to keep escalating and being further subdivided or sold again and, have to come back in another form. That means that land is permanently open
Yeah, the
spaces,
intent
however.
is certainly that it's permanently protected, but, obviously that's also why it's really important that, as we note here, that we know clearly we need to see and review the easement documents, or any deeds, to make sure that the language in there is appropriate.
And again, I wasn't sure if it was just specific to that, client in front of us. I didn't know, like maybe deeds don't have to be permanent, but if it has to be permanent, I would like to see that word in there. But I'm just asking the board what they think about that.
Any other thoughts or comments?
So can I, Jay, this is Jim, can I just, it's just a phrasing question. In that last section, B, it says after approval by the town council of all legal documents and at the planning board's discretion. Any idea why that language is there, at the planning board's discretion? Does that mean the planning board's approval?
Well, yes. I mean, what it's suggesting is that the planning board, I think it's awkwardly worded, but I think the suggestion is that the planning board has the discretion to determine whether or not the property is conveyed to the town, a nonprofit, a corporation, etc. So yeah, really, you could just say it's subject to planning board approval, might be clearer.
Yeah, I mean, just so that there's no question what's required to actually do this.
I'll make a note of that.
That's the first case I think, well, not that we don't go to legal review, but that was one that, it looks like we're making it as part of the process now, that it does go to legal review.
Right.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think it's pretty straightforward. Hopefully. As straightforward as a complicated ordinance can be.
Yeah, I think it looks good, Jay. Thank you for putting that together.
Perpetual,
Thank you.
or What's that word again? What's that word again?
Perpetuity?
Can we put that
So
word
I
in?
guess we have our first one that we may want to consider
that
to
out.
put forward this coming year as a warrant article. And I think there are a few more in the hopper. I'll certainly go and look back through my notes. And if anybody else has any thoughts as to other parts of the ordinance that we might want to address for next year. I know it's still pretty early, but we certainly want to think about it because it's easy to get distracted.
Right.
So what did we decide? Are we doing perpetuity in there?
Sure. I think to be clear, I mean, that's the intent, right?
Right.
So.
But I didn't know that. I thought open space, like later, that part of this
Yeah.
land could be sold and it's,
Right,
now
no, I
it's
think the
switched
intent
on.
is that it's
It's
permanently
permanent, yeah.
in perpetuity.
It's going to be for that purpose.
And anybody that's coming before us who does their homework before they get here, that would also let them know that that's not going to be changed.
The more you can say that word, the better.
I wrote it down.
I can certainly, I can
Perpetuity,
add
I
in the
said
word
it.
in perpetuity.
I think you did a good job, Jay, of
Good.
whittling it down. I mean, with the different types of open space and kind of course sort of narrowing the focus. I think that's good.
Great.
I like it.
All right, so I'll make those changes and I'll get it out to everybody.
Yeah, if you can do that, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, great.
This is a bit of a subject change, but as far as the warrant articles for this year, and we touched on it last time, but I think we should look at more attainable housing and look at our ordinances and how we can update those a bit to encourage contractors to be building using smaller lot sizes or something. We just take a look at it because I know that's a growing need in town.
And in fact, we do have a kind of a small ad hoc group that is, talking about kind of what are the alternatives that can get some housing that's more affordable.
And I know you had a conversation with, forget his name, Ben Forrest?
Rich Lascelles?
Mr. Lascelles?
Yeah, Mr. LaSalle and the gentleman from New Hampshire Housing.
Yeah, Ben Frost from,
Ben Frost.
and
Thank
George
you.
Reagan from New Hampshire Housing. It was very interesting, very good conversation. And you know, they don't really have programs that are beneficial for at least what we've been talking about, which is more affordable single-family homes is really the idea, like more of a starter home. So their programs don't fit that directly. Indirectly, they do provide assistance to first-time home buyers. So that's beneficial, but they don't provide any kind of financing. So we did talk about some really interesting different alternatives, and maybe at some point we could have a planning board workshop on that. And we've got some nice examples, notably from Amherst, which did a lot in encouraging some more affordable housing options that really worked in a community that is, you know, fairly rural and doesn't have sewer. So, you know, if the board is interested, I think, you know, we could do a workshop on that down the road and, you know, pull some different kinds of examples. The other, the comment that, you know, Ben made was, you know, kind of to the question of what's our next step. You know, he really encouraged us to meet with some developers and talk about what the real cost drivers are and what are the kinds of incentives that would make a difference. And that definitely seems prudent.
I'd like to be involved in that I think we should do a workshop, sure.
All right, let's do it.
I think that's, yeah, that would be good. Okay, Jay, thank you. All right.
It's not too soon when you've got, I mean, when we're looking at, you know, things that could take some time to work through, it's not too early.
Yep.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Jay? Okay. Again, thank you. And we'll revisit this for sure. Okay. Actually, do you have the agenda?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, folks, my computer
I'll just give you mine.
died on me.
Oh, right here. And this one, when you click on correspondence, you get this. But on the agenda, it's this. So let's give you the agenda. I'll give you mine.
Yeah,
You can just take that. There you go.
Yes, okay, thank you. I knew there was something else. Survey questions. And I think this has to do with the capital facilities portion of the master plan, Jay.
Right.
And-
So we talked previously about doing a survey for the community facility section of the master plan. I think everybody saw a draft. I did get some comments from the board, mainly Kate. And, but it was also shared with the CIP committee and it was shared with all the department heads. And so what I found is that I was getting different comments, some of which were conflicting. And, you know, so I felt it would make sense to maybe just go through the survey again. I want to talk about some of the changes that I did make in response to the comments. And then maybe we can make some judgment calls on a couple of the questions. It was suggested that, you know, basically, in a couple of cases, we had people suggesting comments be added or included, and also comments that they be taken out. So I thought it just made sense to bring it, you know, to the board so that we can kind of talk through it. I'm going to try and share it from the live site, and I am hopefully doing that. Can everybody see the survey? So
Yeah, I see the survey, yes, yeah.
I'm sorry, it's small. How can I make it bigger? All right,
Can you magnify the screen?
I am Not sure if I can make it bigger. I am going to do this. I am going to see if I can email everybody.
We might be on
I'll let-
Russ's side.
Oh, is it a new one he's sending out?
Oh, there we go.
Hopefully that should be popping through.
Jay's starting to share now.
Were people able to get the link?
Where's the link?
Was it in our agenda? Was it the one in our?
No, I
agenda?
just
No,
emailed
he
it.
just sent it by
New one.
email.
Okay.
Okay, I did get the link. Okay.
And hopefully when you click on it, it works.
I haven't,
It
it
says
says
there's a
email
server error.
password.
Jay,
Oh, dear.
if you're in Chrome, go to view, you should be able to zoom in and it should bring that content a little bigger.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Go to view and bring the content and zoom it in.
You got an email link?
Are you on a Windows box or a Chromebook?
I am on Chrome.
Didn't get anything. Okay.
All right. Let me think
No, that's
about.
all right. I have the old one we can work off.
Go to the three dots by your picture. On the top, see where your picture is, your profile picture.
Yep,
Yep, click on the three dots,
yep.
and on the, you should see a zoom in that dialog pane
I can see.
on the browser, yeah.
Tell me again, what am I looking for? Oh, video options? No.
Make me control, because then I'll just do it.
Did it. Sorry for my technical incompetence.
Don't worry about it.
There you go.
Join the club.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
It's a little better, yeah.
People see that better?
Yeah, it is a little better to see.
Okay. All right. So John, if you can give me back control, I'll scroll through it.
Just click your mouse anywhere on the screen and take control.
Got it. All right. Thank you, John. All right, so first question, we had no comments on this. For those who can't see it, this is the question where we just basically ask people based on their experience, how well do they think the following facilities meet the needs of the community? I should say, I did receive some early comments. There were a couple that I did remove because the suggestion was nobody will know what they are, like Musterfield. So there were just a couple of not well-known recreation fields that we removed. But beyond that, really no change. The next big question was, or is, I should say, on the police department. The new facility proposed for the police department, we had said it was, I think, a 12,500 square foot building. The police chief commented, no, it's 10,400. Obviously, I made that change. That's pretty straightforward. Now, so there was another question that was requested that we add. And in the version you're seeing now, it didn't exist. Previously, it didn't exist. The suggestion was that one of the alternatives that is under discussion is, rather than building a new police station, converting the whole town hall building into a police station and building a new town hall, town offices, facility for town offices somewhere else. And under the assumption that that would be a less expensive alternative. So it was suggested that I add that alternative as a question. I did add it as a question, but then we got comments back that really there's no cost, no reliable cost estimate associated with that. It's too unknown, remove it. So I did remove it because I got that same comment from more than one person, but I just want everybody to know that that did occur. So right now, the only police station question is whether, they would support the construction of a new 10,000 square foot police station adjacent to the fire department, which is what was proposed. For the fire department itself, we had initially broken out. There were two, a pumper truck and, or I should say a tanker truck and a fire engine that are proposed. Originally, this was two questions. We combined them into one. And one of the concerns expressed by the fire chief was that people should understand that these are not being purchased in the same year. So I just put the dates of the purchase in the question. Pretty straightforward. Highway Department, we had one question in that how can you, really keep all the roads or bring all the roads into a state of good repair with only paving 1.6 miles? That's originally how the question was worded. The intent here is that that's an addition. This is $200,000 in additional funds that's being sought for an additional 1.6 miles. I just added the word additional to make that just a little bit clearer. Library trustees, this was a question on support for a new library. Made no changes to this question. Conservation Commission's request for $2 million in funding. No changes were made to this question. And of course, I should add, in both cases, no changes were made. I got no comments on either of those. Next, on the school department, for the Griffin Memorial School, I got no comments on that. So that remains the same. So this is where I got more comments on the energy efficiency improvements. So that was, Kate, I got a comment from you. Kind of what's the cost savings? This originally was added because we had comments that it should be added, and now I'm hearing maybe we shouldn't include it because there isn't really enough information that's provided. I'll add to that I'm leaning in that direction only because, especially kind of coming out of the last CIP meeting, it's clear that these are related to whether or not we move forward with the elementary school. And putting enough information in this question to make it clear what's proposed might be challenging. So at any rate, I think throw that open to discussion. Should we keep this question or should we pull this question? Or should we try to somehow build it up so that it's clearer and keep it? And if anybody has thoughts on that.
Has,
Well, I was just going to say the Campbell High School and the LMS, they're both not contingent on another project happening. So
That's
I think
true.
those
You're
energy
right.
efficiencies nonetheless are going to need to be done by the school. The majority of it goes back into the HVAC systems. Some of it is light bulbs, but more is getting control again of the environmental systems within the school.
So Steve, is it purely for energy efficiency, or is it like these systems are outdated and they're going to need to be replaced?
These systems are outdated. They need to be
updated.
replaced, and we will get energy efficiency by replacing them.
Because I think the way that this is worded, it sounds like we would do this because it'll save us money, but we don't really need to do it. It's just like, it'd be nice. I don't know if there's some way to put in that these systems need to be updated anyway, but do we want to update them with more efficient systems? Is that the difference, I guess, in the question? Or is it we wouldn't replace these at all unless we were using energy efficient systems?
I think it needs to be worded that these systems need to be replaced, and the replacement systems would be energy efficient. Because if you look at the high school, that's a 20-year-old system. And I think if we look at LMS, 40 years?
last big additions were in the 70s, late
70s.
70s.
So we're looking 40, 50 years.
The big pieces, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a combination. It's HVAC, but I think it's also things like light bulbs.
Yes, it's light bulbs. There's some windows in there. I asked the question at CIP last evening if there was an ROI calculated thus far, and the information's still coming in. So the ROI has not been calculated, because that would be, I think that would really help the question. We need to upgrade these systems and energy efficient. The ROI is X many years down the road. So it would give a little bit more, for the voter to understand.
Definitely.
But I don't understand the alternative to this. An inefficient system?
Just
Or-
leave,
Well, no,
leave them as is.
It's just, yeah, you're using the word energy efficient, but because the other part of this is when you go and do this, there's a lot of state and federal programs that can help you offset your cost.
Right.
Because if you go to Eversource, they're going to help you.
Right.
So there's a cheaper alternative that isn't quote unquote energy efficient. That is the alternative to this choice.
There's
Well,
always
the
something.
additional
that's
revenue
efficient.
sources that could be accessed.
So what they did is they actually brought two different companies and two different major manufacturers to come in and assess the buildings and come back with plans on how to get control of the heating systems again, and on top of it, get them energy efficient.
So we don't
Michael,
know,
did you understand it the same exact way?
That was my understanding.
so we don't know the cost of the lesser system. I mean,
I don't even know if there was a lesson. This one probably
Yeah.
brings you into the standard ash rate you need in order to do it
Oh, okay.
and to get to that
Right.
savings.
Maybe
'Cause there's
it's worded some way like the school district has proposed, system updates to keep it, to bring it up to date that are also this much more energy efficient. Because it just sounds like it's only being asked for because we could maybe be more efficient, not because it's needed because it's 40 years old.
Right. We could certainly change the language to emphasize that.
Because most of these systems are automated this day and age. There's opening and closing of dampers, how much fresh air is coming back through the systems, balance themselves. Presently, the way the systems are, I understand they have to manually go and do that. And that's why we find some portions of the school are much warmer than other sections of them. If you open up the
Can
windows,
we add
sometimes
those,
there's a lot of
can we add those
condensation
man
within the
hours in
building.
the ROI?
So it's a sense that we keep the question, we just make it clear that the systems do need to be upgraded and that they will be upgraded in a more energy efficient way.
I'm okay with that. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
That's fine.
That's good.
So just so say we put this article out there and it's voted down, that means nothing happens to the systems at the school?
This is just getting, I believe the intent of this is just to get the interest of the residents.
Yeah, the community.
Yeah, I'm just trying to word it in a way. I don't know what I'm choosing here. Nothing happening or an energy efficient system. No, there's nothing in between. It's just. we're
I
not
think it
gonna-
should be
I think
more
it's-
worded that it's an upgrade, that the heating, cooling systems need to be upgraded. But how do you get the right verbiage to relate what they're trying to say? And I don't want to put words down for the school district.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to get a little more clarification from the school district on how they'd like to word this.
Well, the alternative is that, we don't include this question. If we don't think that we can present a question with sufficient clarity, we could just decide not to include it.
And that may be the way to go, and we can explain it more when we do the CIP presentation.
Yeah. Because it seems as though you would have to maybe, I don't know, break it down because you have, we have Campbell High and you have the middle school. And then just energy and efficient improvements, well, what does that mean? Okay, for each one, if you were able to break it down a little bit more specificity, then maybe that would help the person who's looking at the question say, oh, okay.
And
Because
from a
really, whether
CIP
you
standpoint, there's a
support-
third piece
Mhm.
for GMS, but you don't even want to bring that in
Right.
unless the GMS school doesn't
Good
pass.
point.
Because then when you do, you have to come back in and bring that back in. So that was the whole thing we struggled with last evening at the CIP.
But this whole thing was for our master plan.
Plan, yeah,
I know
so-
CIP, so this is going
Correct.
to.
I personally, I think we should remove the question.
I think I like it for ranking what the public thinks is important. But I understand there's a piece missing. I'm just saying I would like, if all of a sudden everybody says we would like the school to be number one, the fire station, well, not the fire station, the police number 3. I don't know. I'm just saying, I just thought that would be feedback. If we have so much money or time, what do the residents think is more important to the town?
I agree. I just don't know, does it fit in the planning here or does it fit when we do the public hearing for CIP?
And I also think things are missing here. Also talent, some people, that's the recreation, right? Might want that building here. They seem to be leaving off some things here.
Yeah, and the reason I think rec was left out of here is because we had the Warren article last year about should we investigate a new recreation facility, and it got voted down. So I think that's the reason it was
That was
left
one
off
of
of
the
the planning.
discussions.
Right.
That came up.
And
Yeah, we certainly could, we could certainly add, a new rec center if we want to as a question.
I don't
I mean,
think we
certainly
need
for the
to. I
planning
think we
board
got that
purposes.
answer.
I'm thinking, this is our master plan for
Yeah,
10 years.
that was- yeah, I
on
did-
facilities.
Yep.
I think for the planning board purposes, I think that it's appropriate. Whether it's appropriate for CIP,
Right,
that.
There's two
different.
audiences on this right now.
Really
Yeah.
That's
part of
why
the
I'm
master
trying,
plan,
that's
so-
why I'm trying to look at this from a planning standpoint. Do we even want this question about,
I'm not, even if I saw the answers to this, I wouldn't know what to glean from these answers. Because I would read this and put, not sure. I don't have enough information.
Mhm.
Well, that's good. If we could, I have some things on the survey. Is this a hard print? Is this going out? Or we're still discussing it, right?
We're still discussing that.
Because that brings up one of the things on question 1 is some of these I wouldn't even put no opinion. I'd put unknown because I've never been to some of these things.
Yep.
So it could be unknown or no opinion, unless you're trying to really divide the vote. That was one thing, but I don't know. So we can come, we want to finish the discussion on this one, or do we want to go over the
I would say
survey?
remove it. If we don't add more clarity to it, then we should remove it because I don't think it's going to get us.
I think it's more of a specific question to CIP than it is necessarily to planning.
planning? Yes.
So maybe we should remove it and just leave that.
But who's this survey for? Is this for CIP or is it
So
for
I guess the
planning?
thrust
for
was, there was a
shared.
planning survey going out
Planning
and said, and we said, can we utilize some of the CIP questions, which are planning questions,
Mhm.
into it? Was
Yes.
kind of,
Because we're
so
doing
can we
that.
kill 2 birds with 1 stone?
I agree. But then that's what we are. We're trying to make it both,
Yeah.
but they both have their own
Yeah, this is an
agenda.
example of where
Where it doesn't cross.
someone could be all. for
And also, we did not include questions on everything that was submitted to CIP because, for example, all of the highway department vehicles, we didn't stick those in here because it just didn't seem to be sufficiently planning related.
Because it's facilities. We're focusing on the facilities.
Right.
Do you mind if we go back to 1 and go through a few, and then when we get to 10 or whatever that number is, we can, maybe it'll come very clear whether we keep it. Do you mind if we do that, or?
Do you
No,
want?
on number 1, I there was some that I had no idea. I haven't been to some of these, and so I would have to say, not that I don't have an opinion, it's unknown. That would also tell you whether people are visiting some of these
Yes.
parks and recreation
That's right.
areas, right?
That's why, like Jay said, the muster field got taken off because most residents in town don't know where the muster field is.
Yeah.
I didn't know until probably about a year ago, year and a
Right,
half ago.
exactly. But you
Right.
will, yeah. So I don't know if people want no opinion and unknown or no opinion. I know it's big, but that would tell you whether we're advertising some of these things properly for people to get out there.
So you're saying add another category?
Or make it no opinion or unknown or make unknown or. I would say I don't know 5 of these. I haven't never been to, so I don't have an opinion, but it doesn't mean, it means I don't know. It's not like I don't have an opinion, it's good or bad, it's just.
I
have no
could
idea.
change the term no opinion to don't know.
Or unknown or something, or don't know, yeah, whatever.
There is, it says Parker Park, parentheses, Brickyard.
Where are you? Parker Park?
And Brickyard should be Scott Innes Field.
Which one's that?
So if you scroll down, you'll see right below Moore's Falls, it says Parker Park. And then in parentheses, it says Brickyard.
Yeah,
Brickyard, that parentheses should be with the Scott Innes Field.
Oh, that's an error. Yes, thank you.
And the Justin Bissett Fields, more people will probably know that as Jeff Lane.
Oh, good. That was my question. Perfect. I'll cross that one off.
Chris Parker. What's that? The Brickyard.
So that, I'll wait till, and then also, like, when I was reading this, I was pretending I'm seeing this for the first time. It looks like you have the first one's a building, the second one's a building, and then the rest are land, right? And then at the end, you go back to buildings and then land. I don't know if you want all the buildings up front and then the land stuff after. But which is hard because you do have Campbell High School fields and Griffin Memorial Fields, so maybe those go with the school. It just seemed like you had two buildings and then a lot of stuff and then more buildings down on page 2. I don't know if you want the buildings together and then since it's a facility chapter on that too. I didn't know if they were alphabetized. I was trying to figure out, did they go with the alphabetized or did they go with what you got from?
Yeah, I think the thinking was
priority.
I mean, again, I'm not wedded to any particular order, but I think the thinking is that we kind of talked overall about the different facilities, all of them. Are you talking about on this question?
On question 1, it just seemed like the first one's a building, the library. The second one's a building. Oh, excuse me, that's a path. Never mind. So you have a building, and then you have a bunch of stuff that's land, all this forest and river stuff, which is wonderful. And then on page 2, like, down near the bottom, you finally do a talent hall's a building. See how I just thought you have a building, a lot of land, then building. I didn't know if you wanted all the buildings together and then all the land.
I can reorder.
Well, I think it looks like it's all over. I think if it's called, because you said based on your experience, town and school facilities meet the community, I guess. I just thought of the word facilities and I'm thinking building, going into it.
I can certainly reorder it to group buildings together versus, fields or parks and keep them together. Sure.
Then the only two you'd have to worry about is Campbell High School athletic fields and Griffin Memorial School fields, because you have those on your list, at least Griffin, right?
Yeah, I do.
So that one might have to go with that one.
I was going to say we should put Talent Hall and Dara Ponds next to each other because those, I think, will have different answers. Like if I just look at Dara Pond, my first thought was, well, I like Dara Pond, but Talent Hall could use some attention.
That's a good point. Okay.
So I don't know what we're doing with unknown or never been there. Or
I mean, I'm happy to take your suggestion. We can change no opinion to don't know.
Okay, that would be good.
And then that just makes it clear that the respondent just doesn't know, isn't familiar with the facility. Any other comments on question 1? Should I
I
go
don't know
back
if you
to-
just want to put where Steve mentioned Justin Bissett Fields, that's Jeff Lane. Maybe put maybe put in parentheses Jeff Lane or something.
Yes.
Just so that someone knows that that's where it is.
Yeah, I may know.
They may
that.
not recognize the name, but they may know the street where the ball field is.
Right. And I'll put the Brickyard parentheses at Scott Innisfield. So I'm going to scroll back to where we were unless somebody has something else on
Anybody
another
have anything
question.
else?
Oh yeah, I have more. We're done with number 1. Number 2, if we have time. I think this second sentence, again, I'm on the older draft here that went out, but the proposed, I know it's 10,400 square feet when it used to be 3,400. That's, I don't know if you want to put a 67% increase, whatever. But you said that it would be built as an addition to the existing fire station. Does that say our new fire station? Just don't want them to think it's the old fire station.
The existing new fire.
The new fire station. Instead of saying, I just,
Yeah.
people might think, oh, they're going to use that building, which maybe you are, that's fine. But so just say new fire station.
Sure. Yes.
And then again, I don't know if you want in parentheses when you put, it was 12,600, you said it went to 10,400 square feet now.
Yeah, it was just a typo the first.
Do you want to put in parentheses 67% increase? I don't know. I'm just saying for square footage. Just people will envision it being much bigger, which we need, I'm just,
What do you mean by increase?
well, if you go from, it says you're currently at 3,400 square feet in the police station, and you're going to build one that's now 10,400.
Oh, that's
So,
just a typo.
well, no, it was 12,600, right? But he changed it to 10,400 just now, right?
Oh,
10,400.
Yeah.
So I don't know, do the math, but I think that's a 67% size capacity difference, right? From 3,400 to,
is that a change in the plan?
But the 3,400, I don't think is even stated in the question.
oh,
is
I
it?
thought, I'm looking at the
It's
one that went
yeah,
out
it
there
is.
before.
Oh, it's cut off? Okay.
Oh,
I
I'm
can't
sorry.
see. It's cut off from where
I
you
should
guys,
be reading the new
where the
ones.
Brady Bunch squares are.
Oh, the
There you
Brady
go.
Bunch. So I don't know if people want to say 67% increase or whatever the math works out to be,
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
so they can envision it. What, that's good. And then I'll wait till you finish that.
Anybody else have thoughts on that? Should I add that change?
Thanks, Russ.
I don't certainly think it's necessary, but if anybody has a strong opinion, I could go either way.
Well, if we do it there, it would have to be consistent everywhere, and I'll show you where it shows up again, but we can come back to that. And I'm for whatever. The choices on that, you said somebody brought up maybe doing a new town hall and using this whole facility. There might be another option of building a smaller facility onto the new fire station. I don't know if that was a option.
So there, I
And
mean,
so-
obviously,
so
there's a
what-
multitude of options.
Yeah.
The reason I focus just on this one, again, at one point, I did have another question on the other alternative. The problem is that there was simply no cost information that was reliable or credible. There was actually none. So that I didn't include. Certainly, developing a smaller station might be an option.
Yeah, you
But
kind of
I
did
didn't
that.
include any other option because it says the police department has proposed. So this is currently what the proposal is. So that's why we put the question in. But we do have the option of saying, yes, I support it. No, not this proposal. Maintain the current facility. We could certainly add a question. Would you support a smaller?
You kind of did that. Yeah, because when it went from 12.6 to 10.4, you kind of did that. When I envisioned an 85% increase in size versus, well, why can't they make it 60%? You kind of did that today by bringing it down to 10.4.
I did.
So I don't, I was a note I wrote before.
I didn't make that choice. The police chief
Yeah,
said
right.
that the 12 whatever was an error and
Right.
that it should be 10-4.
Yeah.
That's why
So
that
I was reading that note from when I wrote it earlier. Okay, so I think you kind of brought it down anyway. So that I'm just asking, but I think you brought it down. Yeah. I think the fire trucks one too. Did we answer everything on that number 2 there? I'm sorry.
Well, now, Kim, if you're doing percent increase, isn't that a 200% increase? If you say 67% increase, doesn't that mean it's smaller?
Well, they already have
Like,
3,400, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
They were at 3,400 and they're going to go to 10, right? That's what I say. Just do the quick math. I just did 3,400 divided by 10,400 times 100 minus 100. I just did a quick. Because they already have 3,400. But whatever the math is, just figure that out there. The reason I brought that, oh, go ahead. Yep.
I think we're just confusing how percent increases.
Right.
Because if it's going to be a percent increase, it's got to be more than 100.
It's
So
more
take
than,
a-
it's more than 200%.
I guess I'm saying it's 67% bigger than the one it is now, is what I'm kind of doing, right? Because it is 3,400 now.
The increase is more than 200%.
200, because if it was 34 and you doubled it, then you're going to be at 68.
So maybe I did the wrong
It's like
formula.
30. It's
I did
like
the wrong
30.
formula. That's why I said, check the math. I did the wrong formula.
I think it's.
So it's a
easy to leave the
200%. Yes, you are correct. It's 34 to, yeah.
Closer to 300.
Well, not at 10.4, right? Maybe. Okay.
Maybe we just leave the
Three
percentages
times as
out.
big. Okay. But again, if we're going to do percents, that'll be on the fire truck. Which I think you've changed, you said. You said the first tanker truck was in 1991. If you put parentheses 29 years old, that might help. Right? In parentheses.
old.
Yeah.
Rather than just.
So you know, say existing 1991 tanker truck, and then in parentheses 29 years old.
And
Just so-
what would be better off putting a 29-year-old tanker truck?
Whatever. I'm just saying it might help because the other one's 25 years old.
Could do that too.
Again, I- you know,
Say 29 years ago.
So you can leave existing 1991 tanker truck and then parentheses 29 years old, right? With a new vehicle.
I could.
And then I think the other one's 25 years old.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what it costs to maintain these trucks. I have no idea if they're going to want to know that
So
answer.
it's basically not, it doesn't go by mileage, it goes by hours. So you pretty much have a vehicle that gets something there and you're nothing more than a big pump at that point.
Mm.
And when the pump goes, it's a lot of money.
Is a pump going on these? Is that what's happening?
We've rebuilt the pump a couple times in these.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because if the public might say, well, how much does it cost to maintain them? I didn't know if it was,
From
tires.
what I understand, they don't like to go further than 20 years on a truck.
So is that the
Then it really comes
consensus?
down to how
After
much-
1991 tanker truck, I'll put in parentheses here, 29 years old.
Yep.
Okay.
And the 1995 truck is 25 years old.
Right.
That's where the parentheses were coming in on building sizes. Only if you're going to do it in one place, helping them with the math. So.
Okay. I'm continuing to scroll. I'm on highway department now. Now I'm on library. Conservation.
How does
School.
conservation get their money now? Is it donations?
Impact fees. No,
It's
well,
primarily
not
through
impact,
the
sorry,
land
it's
use change tax.
use change.
What is it?
Use change. Current use.
Because they're going to try to raise $2 million. So I didn't know how they got their money now.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's.
Yeah, this is on top of what they get from the land use change tax.
Okay.
Griffin Memorial. Obviously, we're back to this question, which I think is, I'm still not sure what the consensus is. But why don't we come back to it? Because
Which one?
we're on to questions we haven't yet discussed. They're in the prior draft, so I didn't make any changes to these. I take it back, I made one change. It was noted, one of my comments I got was that one of the alternatives could be, or that has, I guess, been discussed, is conversion to a senior center, or the need for senior center. So I added that as one of the options. Otherwise, the question's the same as it was. Again, we're now into the, if we're going to replace a particular building, what should it be used for? And then the same question for Griffin Memorial School. And again, there were no changes that I made to this question. And then same thing with the police station, and I made no changes. And then we have, please rank the following facility improvements in order of preference. And this is, pretty straightforward. Obviously, if we decide to take out, the energy efficiency question, we'll take it out from this, ranking question as well. And then finally, the open-ended, are there any other improvements that you'd like to see? I'll also add that we did get a comment that we should add the tax rate impact to each of these questions. I think that's a little variable, so I hesitated to do that. We could always take a stab at it, but I hesitated to do
There's
that.
real no way of doing it because we don't know what the revenue stream's going to be.
Right.
So, and on top of it, we don't know what the new tax rate's going to be because the DRA hasn't set it yet. So, at one of the selectmen's meeting, we had a long discussion about this, and there's just no way to give accurate detail at this time.
Right. So, yeah, I think it's best not to try.
So Jay, on the one ranking of the projects, is there any way to put radio buttons in there that they have to rank every one from, if there's 6 of them, from number 6 down to number 1 or vice versa?
That you have to answer all? Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be beneficial if we did the radio buttons with number 1 being the highest priority, number 6 being the least? If there's 6 there, I don't know how many are actually there. And then they can rank, so we'll know exactly how the ranking comes in. Because right now you're just clicking on them, right?
What happens though is when you click on them, the order changes.
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't realize that. All right, that's great.
Yeah.
What happens? Oh, okay, they
Changes.
reshuffle, okay.
That's what I was hoping to get with the little radio buttons next to it instead.
If the CIP group, what came up about the middle school, because I know we have mobile attachments, right? Don't we have some mobile units there? Was that ever,
So what
I don't see
happens
middle
is
school
if
here.
the new GMS gets built,
Yeah.
5th grade goes into the new elementary
Okay.
school, therefore you don't need them. If GMS gets shot down, then the next thing is to put an addition onto LMS, and that's when those 5th grade classes would move into LMS.
Okay.
So right
So we're
now,
kind of back to this question, the energy efficiency question. I think really the two options that are floating out there are put some more explanatory language into the question that these are necessary improvements and they'll be more energy efficient as well, and keep the question, or eliminate the question, given the challenges around framing it.
So as a planning board, what are we trying to learn from this question? Through the lens.
Yeah,
of
I could
planning.
see either
what,
way.
what the town value, what the town at this point in time thinks we should invest in for facilities?
So the
It
rest
might
of
be
the-
different than what the engineers think and the board think, but what is the public voice?
Does the rest of the survey cover the school enough where we would still get that information from this?
Well, we cover the Griffin, I think, but I don't know about middles. I didn't even know this
Right,
option.
The other two schools.
If they had that information, maybe they would vote differently
I
on
think you could put
GMS.
those into this survey because it is a planning board survey. At least to get the perspective, you could do that.
You're talking about the ranking. We're still back on the rankings, right? Because then we'll get to you about making sure all the schools are covered, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I just, is
Which
this a
would make
question-
sense, because if you're doing the master plan, which is the vision of the entire town,
Yeah.
you're gonna want to have an idea of everything that's included. So having the middle school, the Griffin, the elementary school and the high school, I think you would need to include all those things in your.
So this will give us other information that's not included in the rest of the survey. So we just need to word it correctly. I wouldn't know how to answer this.
So this is a subset of the SIP meeting, right? But what you both had just mentioned, if that option was, about Griffin, where the 5th grade would go, which building we're going to need to do, I think people might vote differently on this. I don't know, but that's their information that they have. Or is that not? I think that's a big tax item, either one, but
I think there's so many moving parts that it's tough to capture it all in a survey.
you're just asking them a question, but you're not giving them the other side of the
And that's
option.
the whole thing. And if
Right.
you give I think if you give all the options, it gets confusing at that point.
Yeah.
Because if
Well, what about the one on the
B
Griffin
doesn't
school
happen,
as
then B
an
and C,
option?
how do you feel? But if you're strong on B, you may not care about, A, you may not care about B and C.
But the one on the Griffin school, that could be an option to say, if it was, leave Griffin as it is and expand the middle school.
That
That could be an
question.
option on the,
That definitely could be.
I don't know where it was the school one. School. Geez, where's the school?
Three,
Oh,
four.
it had no picture.
I know, it's because I couldn't get a good picture. I'll have to run out there and try to take one.
We can send you one. So where are the answers on the school department? Oh, right here. I don't, doesn't have a number on it, but you have no items proposed, maintain the current facility, not sure. Do we want to add an option? So they know at that point, if they choose not to do anything later, it might be to add on to the middle school or expand the middle school, or I don't even think they know the fifth grade's going to move in. To me, if I am new to town, I think Griffin Memorial School's grades 1 through 4. That's all I think you're talking about. I have no idea you're making it enough for fifth graders also.
It says it in the question.
Where, does it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the new
pre-
question. I have the old one.
Pre-K through 5 elementary school.
Oh, it does. I'm sorry. Yep, you're right. I went right by that. But I still think an answer here would be more helpful, that if it's no, it goes to add on to the middle school.
Is that?
I don't think that that's an option. I don't think the town was really looking to invest.
That's what you
that
just
way.
said, right? Wasn't that what you just said?
From a
No, I'm
CIP
saying
standpoint,
invest
yes.
the Litchfield, the LMS, expanding LMS.
No, but that's what was just said, right? From you, from Steve.
That is,
Weber.
that is in the CIP plan if GMS does not get voted in.
It's a contingency.
So it's a contingency. So if you looked at the whole CIP plan, which you guys will hopefully get to see on September 15th, you'll see that if certain things don't happen, that other things kick in within the plan. Such as if, case in point, if GMS, if the voters said, no, we don't want a new elementary school, then at that point, there's about $1.7 million in energy efficiency that has to go into the school. But you'll see that later on in the plan from a dollar standpoint. So there's certain things that happen, we capture dollars, they come in and out. And the same thing with if GMS didn't happen, okay, then we got to do the upgrade to the HVAC from an energy efficiency standpoint. And at that point, kicks in is moving LMS expansion to get fifth grade to go inside of LMS. So like right now, they're using funds to do a new vestibule in the front of LMS for security, but part of it was to put a common wall on that we could build off of it if that ever came through.
I could add a question, if we think it's warranted, that if Griffin is not replaced, if you don't build a new elementary school, would you support expansion of LMS and, energy efficiency improvements at Griffin Memorial School?
Yeah.
I think at that point, it's turning into a CIP survey
Correct.
Yeah, right.
instead of a planning board survey.
Yeah.
And
again-
the energy efficiency improvements maybe are more like a question as like investing in the town facilities. So I'm not sure whether or not we're still going to keep that question or not, but it could be phrased as it's not just energy efficiency improvements, it's investing in these town facilities. Just like the police department is asking to be invested in by expanding.
Yeah, I mean, if we keep the energy efficiency question, then clearly it's going to be reworded to make it clear that the existing systems need to be replaced and they would be more energy efficient.
And I think we should keep this to a planning board one. We're going to have a public hearing for the CIP. At that point, we can vet out all the other questions. And that's going to help based off of the planning board meeting, the public hearing that we're going to have in the presentation of the Board of Selectmen. We may actually, from the output of that, change our ranking of projects on it. So I'd rather say, let's keep this as a planning session and let CIP handle itself.
Okay.
And that being said, I mean, as a planning session, I mean, you can be creative and more in the planning than CIP is more, I think, a little bit more narrow focus because it's more specific to some agenda. But this is really an opportunity to look forward to what's going on in the
And
town.
it's twice the duration also.
Yeah, so.
Are you
So
still
am I
thinking it
hearing
has a
that
hole in it?
we pull this question?
You thinking it's, I'm not sure yet. Do you still think it's not capturing?
Yeah, I don't know what, if we got answers to this, I wouldn't know what to do with those answers, I don't think.
Which
wouldn't
would,
know.
which one
I'm
in
still just
general?
trying to get a sense of the group as to
Yeah.
whether we think it stays in or goes
I
out.
wouldn't know what conclusions to draw from the survey results from this.
Is it pertinent from a planning board
Well,
standpoint?
that, yeah,
this
that's
question?
that question.
Can we look at each, so the first, all right, so I understand the first one probably would be from planning.
I think, to me, everything is
Probably
is another
not.
question mark.
It's, arguably, this is an investment in existing facilities that's necessary. It would result in improvements, but it's also necessary. So maybe it's not sufficiently master plan related.
Like fire trucks, is that master plan related? I mean, I know we need it for a town, but should that be in the planning?
That's, of course, that's a question as well.
Yeah, that's
So I mean, so if we're gonna start cutting out things that aren't applicable to planning board, I think the fire trucks,
If
the
you
roads
get-
would probably
That
stay.
one's a little more straightforward to me. If you get the
Yeah, I mean,
the results from
in
that, we can
general,
vote.
the community facilities section does deal with public safety. It does deal with schools. So all these things are relevant. It's just really a question of whether this specific question we feel we want to include. Or once again, do we include it with more descriptive language?
I think we either get rid of it or improve it.
I agree. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
As written, I think it's just way too confusing.
Okay. Well, I can certainly take a stab at improving it and making it clearer.
I guess if you can try to do that, Jay, that would probably be helpful.
All right. Why don't I do that? And, I'll make the other changes that, have been noted. And, perhaps send this out, within the next day or two, to everybody to have a chance to take a look. And then if there's no objection, we could look to, getting it out there.
Okay.
Jay, when you do reword that out of courtesy, could you just send the rewording to Chairman Burke of the school board?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. I'll send it to Troy as well.
All right, thank you, Jay.
Any other thoughts or questions or comments?
So when is this actually going out to the public?
To be determined, but what I'd like to do is
Last
get a
week.
draft out, to the board, again, school board chair and to Troy within the next day or two. And then, let's see how the comments go. We were certainly looking at trying to time this before the CIP process wrapped up. We don't have to do that, but that was the thinking. And I don't have my dates in front of me right now, so I don't want to quote when the public hearing is going to be, but I think that was certainly the hope. is that we'd have
Yeah,
it
the
before
public
that.
hearing was going to be September 23rd, based on last evening's meeting, Jay.
So, that was the, that was certainly the hope, but, we're certainly not bound to that.
You wanted this before that, or did they want information from your
We were
meeting?
hoping to have this
To
before
make-
that, so then we could capture also the public hearing, and we'd have all the information together, so we could get further down the road.
But then,
It-
but
it
if
We're
they
was
trying
had,
to get the CIP done before we get through budget season, because some of it's going to drive warrant articles.
but if the CIP plan was done, then they could answer this also. There's just, it's a lot
They're
coming
inter-
together.
they're
Yeah, I know they are. They are.
And
That's what we brought up.
Right now, today is the first, so there's still, definitely, we still have time to, make changes to this, get it to the point where we want to, we don't have a lot of time, but we do have time to get it done and out the door before that. Because typically, this is just my bias, but I typically don't like to see a survey out for too long. So, we can certainly still meet that. If it's a goal, we can still make it work.
Is this going to be an online survey only? Are you going to?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that because we don't know what's coming with COVID and they're all back to school this week. So, yeah.
Yeah, paper surveys are also really, really hard to manage and control. They're hard to distribute, they're hard to collect, they're laborious to enter, and very, very hard to have quality control.
Yep. Especially with your open-ended questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to get it. Yep.
So does that mean it goes out, I guess on the town website, does it go out like, through the town alert system? Will we get a phone call? Or is that
I think we should work
mandatory?
with John to get it out on town. I don't know about getting it out through the alert system. Certainly, I think it was getting it on the website and out through social media. Facebook, et cetera, I think was the goal. But if we've got other vehicles, that will get it out, let's do it.
Okay, yeah, if it's, I don't know if it's Board of Selectmen, Steve, or whoever kind of authorizes those, but that I know is a big issue, I think, around here, is that Facebook is one of the only ways to get news out, and it's a very limited population.
I believe at the CIP, we talked about using the alert system, going with the school because they have most of the kids in the database. We can send emails out that way. Town website, social media that gets cross-populated onto WhatsApp. I think those were the 5 mechanisms we talked about getting the survey out on. And we thought at that point we would hit the majority of the community. We did have a conversation about are we missing out on the over 55
Right, I
communities?
remember that.
And we really couldn't come down with a way of really making sure we get to them, especially since it's an online survey and we're not sure how many are actually actively online.
We can call them up and say, take the survey, just to let them know it's there.
Right.
That's why we got it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
With what you said about getting them out in different manners and different websites, is there a way that we can control not getting duplicates?
Yes, so I will get flagged if we get responses, more than one response from the same device. And what happens is that if somebody, if I get more than one response from the same device, we have to authenticate the user. So they will have to provide their, they'll have to identify themselves.
Okay.
So it's not impossible, but I'll get a flag and it will say, we've had we've had more than one response. You've got to identify. So that does, in other words, 2 people who live in the same household would be allowed to respond through the same device, but the authentication requires the identification to make sure that it's in fact 2 different people.
Okay, great.
Good.
That's good. All right. Okay.
All right, if there's no other thoughts or questions or comments, I'll go ahead, get these changes done while it's still fresh in my mind and get it out to everybody.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Jay.
One more question. Just
I
one
gotta
more
stop
question.
sharing that. You can
Just
see
one-
our faces larger.
And it might be a no. Just one more question on it. And on the introduction, you had your Litchfield Community Facility Survey. Do you want to put something in here that you're working with the SIP plan as well, so they know maybe to go look for information? Because you are sending out
certainly could.
updates.
Yeah, good.
The first, get a little introduction up here that you're collecting data for the master plan
In the capital improvement.
and the capital
Yeah.
improvement plan. Then they might look in your postings because you give a recap of what happened.
Yes.
So they could go look at that as
That's a
well
good
and
thought.
bring them the information.
Yeah,
Feel better about that.
I'll do that.
Were there any other changes, Jay? I know we kind of got off track a lot, but sorry. Were there any other changes that you want to talk about in terms of the survey, or was that pretty much, are you good?
That was it.
Okay.
We went through it pretty thoroughly.
Okay, all right. Okay. Before I get to the next item, which is committee reports. I guess I got something in here, and I think we all got something about correspondence from the town of Hooksett Planning Board.
Yeah.
And I guess I think this probably has to do with regional impact. I think this is why Joan put it on here. So August 13th, 2020, there will be a public meeting with the Hooksett Planning Board as permitted under state statutes to consider the application for EIP Communications 1 LLC property at 180 Londonderry Turnpike, map 43, lot 4. Applicant requests additional 1-year extension of a wireless communication facility approval granted on December 18th, 2018. Public hearing for the extension request has been scheduled for Monday, September 14, 2020 at 6 o'clock in the evening at the Hooksett Municipal Building, room 105, 35 Main Street, Hooksett, New Hampshire. You are being notified as required under RSA 12K7, deployment of personal wireless service facilities. If no serious objections are presented to the planning board at the public hearing, the planning board will take action on the issue. Should a decision not be reached, this application will remain on the planning board's agenda until such time as either approved or disapproved. Sometimes hearings do get continued and the continuance date is announced at the meeting. The abutters are not re-notified. If you're unable to attend the meeting, you may access the hooksett.org website or call the office 603-268-0279 to find if the hearing has been continued to another date. Sincerely, Leanne Fuller, Administrative Assistant. Jay, do you know anything about this at all, or have any?
No, that's the first I've heard of it.
Okay, I don't know why. Joan didn't mention it, so, but I assume that it probably has something to do with regional impacts. So
It's probably specific to it being a telecommunications tower, because ordinarily we wouldn't get regional impact from Hooksett.
Right, I'd say it was kind of far away. I'm like,
right.
That's
I think it's specifically because it's
another county.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. All right. I guess I'll have to talk to Joan. I don't know why she put it on here, but now you know.
I can certainly take a look into it.
Okay.
I can reach out to Joan, get a copy of it, and take a look into it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. Next item, committee reports. Are there any reports of any committees? Kim, do you have anything to report?
I do. But first of all, perpetuity. I said it. All right.
Well, you got that.
I finally could say it correctly. Our Heritage Commission meets next week, Tuesday, September 8th at 7 p.m. We are trying to get it online, but if not, it will be here in the town hall in the meeting planning room. Nashua Regional Planning Commission will meet Wednesday, September 16th at 7 p.m. at the Nashua Regional Planning building on, is it still there? Temple Street? I mean, are you still doing the hybrid model or is it all online still?
We still haven't made that judgment call yet, so it's either it's going to be hybrid or all remote.
Okay, so you can join it online. Yep.
But it won't be, if we do go hybrid, it'll be commission members only.
Okay.
In the room.
And that's it.
Okay. Nothing to report from Lower Merrimack River Local Advisory Committee. The Conservation Commission is meeting this Thursday at 7 o'clock. I think they're meeting here in Town Hall. And I think that's all I have. Well, obviously the Capital Improvement Committee meeting met last night. Fortunately, I couldn't get to the meeting. I know that Steve was gracious enough to share the meeting for me. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Sorry.
welcome.
Sorry about that snafu. But anything to report from the Capital Improvement?
So we did not have a quorum, so we couldn't vote on anything.
Okay.
So what we did is we used it as a work session where we ranked the three of us that were there. Four of us that were there, including Jay, 5. We ranked the projects what we think, and we're going to go out to everybody and see if the members agree. We're going to have another meeting on Thursday, September 10th.
Mhm.
So everybody can get together and we can vote on the plan. The intent is on Tuesday, September 15th to present it to the planning board. We kind of said that you'd be the one presenting it since you weren't there last evening. So you get signed up.
Glad you were thinking of me. Thank you.
Thought it was a perfect person as the chair of that also. And you should drag Sean in with you as the vice chair to help you present.
Okay.
Then on Wednesday, September 23rd, we're going to have a public hearing. And then we're anticipating on Monday, September 28th, to present to the Board of Selectmen. And if we need to make changes based off of planning board input and public hearing, we may push that to October 15th.
Okay.
Did I get it all, Jay?
Yep, perfect.
Great. I know that Kate did was one of the members that did comment on the CIP. So thank you, Kate. And for those of you who maybe not have an opportunity to do that yet, still have an opportunity. So if you'd like to, please do.
I think all I said was it looked good. I didn't have to comment.
Well, it's something. I mean,
That's perfect input.
that's great input. Okay. We need. The meeting minutes for August 18, 2020. Did everybody have an opportunity to take a look at those? Do you have any questions or comments? And if nobody has any questions or comments, you can entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
A second.
Do I have discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Abstained?
Aye.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6, and
5, 1,
5,
1.
501.
6, right, Kate?
Well,
1,
Kate,
2,
I'm sorry,
3.
opposed. I'm sorry, 5, 0,
So 6, 1,
1,
6, 0, 1, right?
6, 0.
Okay. I
I know. I'm getting dizzy. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else any other business this evening? Jay, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything?
No, I am good, thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
So,
Oh, yeah.
we received, I don't know how we got it, but it was in my mailbox, information about the Hudson Logistics Center
Oh,
impacts.
yeah.
And we talked about that last time, I think.
Right. Yeah,
So
we did.
one of the documents was asking to present information to area planning boards about the impacts of this proposal on the town. I hadn't, so I read it. I didn't know that much about it. I do think it presents some serious issues, given the volume of the traffic, the volume of the box trucks that would be in and out of there, the possibility that those would be coming through Litchfield. There was some impacts having to do not only with traffic, but with pollution and with other issues having to do with the quality of the river.
Yeah.
I think it's worth having these folks come in to make a presentation to us, just to get a better understanding of what the potential impact could be on the town. I would certainly be interested in listening to what they have to say. I mean, if you read this, and I understand that they're advocates for a particular position, but it does raise some concerns about just the magnitude of this and the volume of traffic that would be going in and out of there. You know, a couple of thousand employees, trucks that would be going 24/7, and the volume of those trucks. Now they say apparently that they're not going to be, they would just be coming off of Route 3 and going in that way. I don't think that's likely. I mean, given the location of the airport and the proximity of this place, the the likelihood that some of these vehicles might be coming down 3A from the airport. I mean, I just can't imagine that wouldn't happen. And there's no guarantee of that. And there's no provisions, it sounds like, for these developers to pay any of the impact costs. So it's something worth thinking about. You know, it is a massive project. I think it's worth us getting more information about it to get a better understanding of what impact this could have on the town. So I would be in favor of inviting them to come in and at a future meeting and make a presentation.
That'd probably be a good idea. I mean, considering like he says, this is a massive project, and there are a lot of issues associated with it. I know that, I think Joan said last time that we only got one notice about regional impact from Hudson, which I'm very surprised, considering the size of this project. But I think it might be a good idea to either reach out to them and have them come in and maybe, give a presentation or something. They have an opportunity to ask questions. I think.
Jay, with this project slated, did Hudson put on their warrant article, or are they talking about it continuing the circumventual highway? Remember last year it was going to be, excuse me, on their warrant, and they pulled it at the last minute?
Right. To the best of my knowledge, there's no plans to put it on the warrant at this point.
That was going to be that was going to go from what, Lowell Road, basically right out to 111?
Initially, what they, basically recharacterized it, renamed it Hudson Boulevard. And the idea is that it would be a limited access 2-lane road, similar to Albuquerque, rather than the 4-lane, more highway that was originally approved. And that would go from 3A, as now proposed, it would go from 3A to 111.
Okay, trying to get some of the traffic off of Lowell Road.
Right. However, I don't believe, it is in the 10-year plan as a town-funded project. So they did succeed in getting into the 10-year plan in the last round. But there is no there's negligible state funding associated with it. And I don't believe there's, an intent at this point that I'm aware of to try to put it back on the warrant as a town-funded project at this point.
Okay, I was just curious, based on that project going in, the proximity to it, that it would help them a lot from a traffic standpoint.
Yeah, certainly it's been discussed, but at least in terms of the warrant, not that I've heard. Hopefully everybody did get a link to the project site. So there's a huge amount of information on the project, on Hudson's project site for this proposal. So if you haven't had a chance to look through some of those materials, hopefully you will.
But that client's very rich and could probably pay for it themselves. Just throwing it out there. They may not need funding. It may be coming. I don't know. I have no information on it, but
And maybe
they could pay for this highway.
I would say, I think it's fair to say at this point, the applicant is not proposing to move forward with the circumferential in any way. They're proposing improvements to Lowell Road that they believe would handle their anticipated flow of traffic. So at least from the applicant's perspective, there's no proposal to look at circumferential.
Okay,
How
thank
far
you.
up Lowell Road does that go?
The
There-
improvements.
Yeah.
The improvements that they propose now essentially go to the Sagamore Bridge. So if you're familiar with the property, it's the golf course south of Sagamore Bridge. And they do anticipate that most of their traffic will be going to and from exit 2. Of course, not all of it, but that's where the bulk of their traffic flows. We being NRPC, will also be providing comments because it is a project of regional impact. And for those interested, we have a Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, of which Litchfield is a part. And those are public meetings, but we are going to be discussing this specific project on Wednesday the 9th at noon. We're not taking any kind of action. The reason why we're discussing it is because we do want to hear if there are any concerns from surrounding communities that we should be considering, we in RPC, when we're doing our evaluation of regional impact. We have reviewed the traffic study, the most recent traffic study available, but we are aware that it is being revised. So we're holding off, obviously, on any more final review until we get the traffic study. The traffic study is also being reviewed by DOT, and they will be commenting as well.
Does that study have any impact way up by Page Road in 102?
Honestly, negligible. Yeah, I mean, of course, there is impact, but it's not a significant impact. The farther north you get, the farther north you get, the less it is. This is me, non-transportation planner talking. Probably the biggest impact that Litchfield would see is increased congestion at the Taylor Falls Bridge, which would impact, I don't think you're really, I mean, realistically, I don't think you're going to see significant traffic impacts in Litchfield, but to the extent that Litchfield residents travel south to the Taylor Falls Bridge, I think you are likely to see some impacts there. We anticipate a revised traffic study coming. We know that, so we're not making any kind of final review. I can say preliminarily, we do think that they've underestimated the traffic impact north of the site, mainly in relation, especially to employees. That's probably the most significant area where we think it's probably underestimated. But again, we need that final traffic study before we can do a proper analysis.
Okay.
Jay, do you know when the Hudson Planning Board is meeting again for this project? Any idea?
When the Hudson Planning Board is meeting?
Yeah, when do they meet?
They meet on Wednesday evenings. I do not believe that, I'm going to have to double check. I don't want to misspeak as to when the next meeting is. The way they are managing these meetings is they're basically theme-based. So I believe the next meeting, we can clarify the date and get that out for everybody. But the next meeting of the board is going to focus on they've done a physical impact analysis. And so the next meeting, as I understand it, is going to focus on the physical impact. And so they're kind of handling it by various topics. Traffic is without question going to be one of those topics, and it probably is going to be multiple meetings realistically. But that, to the best of my knowledge, the meeting on traffic has not been scheduled. There will be many meetings.
Right.
Well, there've already been some, I should say, and there'll be meetings.
Was there a certain time frame or anything that we needed to get comments in, or is it like nowhere near that point yet?
I would say it's nowhere near that point, but I think the board can make comments at any point up until the planning board takes final action.
Okay.
And certainly I think if there's questions, comments, or concerns, those could be conveyed at any point, and I don't think it's too soon to do that. Sooner can be better.
I guess the question is, would we want to maybe have them come in and talk to us?
Well,
Do you think that would be?
it's a big topic. Can they get it done in an hour, 2 hours? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they would. I think it would be good if they came in, but what material would they bring? I mean, it sounds like they're in process of still gathering the information.
Yeah.
But I think James is correct.
Well,
We're
I mean,
definitely going to
we
be
can ask
impacted
questions. I
and-
mean, certainly
Mm.
it's going to affect us one way or the other. So I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Um,
I agree. They should come in. If they came in today, what could they present? Their plan of what they want to do.
Yeah, the plan and what their proposed impact would be.
They're at the
Right.
moment, because I'm sure they're still digging, researching. Yeah. Yeah,
Or maybe, I mean, send a letter out to them and ask them if they want to come in.
So I don't know, I don't know how this got to us, but this is from, I guess this group, Save Hudson, New Hampshire.
Yeah, they distributed it to all selectmen and all planning boards in
Okay.
surrounding towns.
So that's the group that is offering to come. They're offering to present to the planning board at a future meeting
Okay.
to present facts about the proposed center and possible impacts on the town.
So I guess we could have them, if we wanted to, come in and for some meeting, and if they want to present something or ask questions.
well, like you said, they have their agenda as well, so we'd have to.
Right, no, I
figure that
understand that,
out.
yeah. I mean, you do have to understand, yeah, there is another, it's gonna be their agenda. But at least maybe get a sense of what it is that they're, you know.
I think they're just going to say, watch the movie. They may.
I mean, but they also could say things where they believe the traffic impact would be, but we'll be getting good data back from NRPC, DOT. That's all going to be rolled up, so we can always vet out their claims versus other data that's coming in.
And I mean, when I was asking about the meeting schedule, obviously, I mean, you know, us as a board, you know, someone, you know, whether it myself or if you wanted to go to a meeting, you know, or anybody wanted to go, you know, just to get an idea of what this, you know, what Hudson's doing and thinking and what the process is. So, might be a good idea.
I'd be glad
I
to do
mean,
that.
just to keep it on board.
Because at those meetings, you will get opposing sides.
All the time, yeah.
Are they recorded, Jerry, do you know?
So, I mean,
They are recorded. They're
So just watch
broadcasting
it.
them on local TV. I believe they're live streaming them on Facebook, and I believe that the prior meetings are also recorded and accessible.
If I can find them, I might be able to skip through some of them and you know, take notes for the board.
They should be
That'd
on
be great.
YouTube, probably.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it'd be very good.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
It would be great.
Well, I can certainly, I mean, I can certainly reach out to these folks and, you know, ask them to come in if they want to come in and just, you know, give us their take on it. We don't have to necessarily comment, but just get an idea of what their, you know, their sense is. And if you have questions, I guess you can ask, but, you know, again, keeping in mind that they have their agenda, so I don't want to be, you know. Right. Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So, do that. And I can probably talk, I think Joan gave us those. She might have a copy. Maybe I'll ask her to, and I may still have my copy somewhere.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, she's the one that dropped them around.
Yeah, she was the one that, right. So maybe I can ask her to reach out to those folks, see if they want to come in.
I mean, I think the focus, at least for my interest, would be if they have information on the possible impact to Litchfield.
Right.
I mean, obviously there's impact to Hudson, but
Mhm.
if they've looked at this, if they have some information, you know, it doesn't have to be a long presentation. It just has to be, they've asked to present that sort of information. I mean, I think if they have that
Mhm.
put together, you know, it would.
Yeah, and I would suggest that if the board does want to invite them to come, that the invitation be framed in that way, that, you know, the proposal, the presentation should be focused on impacts to Litchfield.
Yeah, and those can be direct and indirect. So, I mean, you know, there may be
Right.
but I think that's really what, at least that's what I'd be interested in.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. All right. We'll give it a shot. Can do. Okay. So I guess we'll just keep monitoring this and see what, as it goes forward. I assume there's going to be a lot more meetings and a lot more stuff ahead. Anybody have anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have discussion. All right, all those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, aye. Those opposed, abstain, motion passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 0. Thank you for joining us. Get out and vote, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Great.
Good night, Kate. Good night.
Good night, John. Thank you, John.